Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity for me to participate in this conference, and I'm honored. Professor Taka-san talked about the opportunities and its challenges in the ASEAN region. I will specifically focus on India, the challenges and the opportunities that you see. To an outsider, India appears to be a very huge opportunity. You read it everywhere that the BRICS and India, which is a part of it, is a huge opportunity. But I think I must warn you that it is a huge opportunity, but at the same time, it comes with huge complexities and huge challenges. And it is my proud privilege today to talk to you about that. So let's talk about the diversity, which is India, the challenges, which is India. The first point, the geography itself. India is a huge area of almost 3.29 million square kilometers. There are 20 states. The whole country is divided into 28 states and 7 union territories. Now, this is a large country, but with each state is a separate country on its own. Some of the states are as large as any country in the world. So if you look at it, each state also comes up with its own economic development potential. Some states have higher income, some states have very low income. So each state in the country has a different economic profile. Second, each state has its own culture, has its own language, has its own dialects. There are almost more than 22 languages, and there are over 1,000 dialects, which means each state, and within the state, you will find different kind of cultures and languages. Now, India, till it's attained its freedom in 1948, was never a nation. It used to be composed of smaller kingdoms. But it is the freedom movement which brought India together. So over a period of time, we have developed the mentality of Indianness. We are still struggling, but it is slowly moving towards where an average citizen considers himself to be a truly Indian. That's the kind of number one complexity that you see. The second point is demographics. If you look at this, our population is 1.25 billion. It is large enough for anybody to think about the opportunities that lie. But if you look at the composition of that, you have certain challenges. The urban population is only 30%. The larger part of the country lives in rural areas, and that's almost about 70%. The population has been growing almost at the rate of 1.3%. So it is good. The other thing is, the population is very young, with approximately about 65% in the age group of 15 to 64 years. The median age of the country today is 26.2. So, large population, but only urban 30%. And a lot of that urban population is actually rural population, which has moved to urban population. So obviously, you are seeing very big income inequality. You will have a top income profile, which is not very high, but the majority of the people are below income, and a lot of them are in the poverty range as well. So you're seeing a very wide variation in terms of income. You cannot go by the law of averages. You have to see that there are different income segments, and how do you respond to it? Yes, some of the urban population, urban cities, the top cities, the metropolitan cities, have a profile which is Western in nature. But the majority of the cities and the rural areas are very, very different. That's number one. Now, the population is very young. So you have something, what we call as a demographic dividend, which means over the next several years, India is going to be young. It will have a large labor pool. It will have a large consumer market. But here is the challenge. And the challenge is a lot of this younger population doesn't have adequate education. If you look at the number of people which are enrolled in education, particularly higher education, you will find that that number is very, very low. So you have a challenge where a larger part of the population is uneducated. The second thing is, now you have to find jobs for this younger population. Will we be able to find jobs? They have been growing in an environment where they are exposed to media, they are exposed to the global world, they have seen the opportunities. But are these people going to see that in the country for themselves? Are they going to have income which will buy them those opportunities? And that's where the challenge lies. If India doesn't provide them gainful employment, you're talking about huge social unrest. And therefore, you have to be prepared for that. That's the other challenge. Let's look at the cultural diversity, which is the third point. There are multiple religions. You have Hinduism, you have Islam, you have Christianity, you have Sikhism, you have Buddhism, Jainism, Judaism, Zoroastrianism. It's a country which is living with multiple religions. Now, that itself has certain effects on mindsets and may be the cause of social tensions. How do you take care of this large profile of religion diversity? The literacy rate in India is 74%. Male is about 82%. Female is about 65%. So you're talking about a very different kind of a education profile. I have talked to you about where not only education is low, but the other thing is that the quality of the education is equally low. If you look at major researches, you will find that the quality of primary education, the quality of secondary education, the quality of higher education in the country as compared to global countries is extremely poor. So on paper, people will look educated. But are they educated to exploit the opportunities that exist in front of them? I think that's another challenge. Let's look at the political profile. Now, India is a secular state and the largest democracy. And it has a parliamentary form of government. It's probably the youngest and the largest democracy in the world. We have been following this since 1948. And with a profile of people that I just defined to you, it's a huge challenge. How will they practice democracy? But I think India has been mature enough to accept democracy and practice democracy. I think the challenge with us is not so much democracy, but the challenge is governance. when you look at the governments which have come in, there is increasingly you hear about corruption, you hear about execution delays, you hear about policy paralysis. Those are the problems that you're seeing. So will India move fast enough to handle the opportunity that lies in front of them? I think, therefore, you're seeing tremendous amount of such kind of challenges. Let's look at the economic profile. Now, India is a $1 trillion economy. It's huge. And it ranks as the 10th largest economy and 3rd largest in terms of GDP on purchasing power parity basis. So it looks big. It ranks high in market size, which means it is almost 3rd. And one of the innovation index rates it at 38. Is the 3rd most attractive destination in terms of FDI. So you're looking at that. The other thing that you have to therefore examine is, it is shifting from an agrarian economy to a services-driven economy. Most countries will move from agrarian to industrial and then to services. India has made a leap from an agrarian society to a services-driven. So the middle part of the industrial revolution has been avoided, which means the sector which could provide most of the employment has not happened. So yes, there is a huge opportunity in manufacturing, but will we work towards exploiting that manufacturing sector? The share of the GDP as far as industry is concerned is about 15% or so. The services is almost 56%. The agriculture is 27%. This cannot be sustained for the simple reason that industry has to grow, and therefore there's huge amount of potential for manufacturing companies, because that will employ the larger labor pool that you see in the country. The other thing is, there are low-cost knowledge workers. Whatever higher education has happened, the low-cost knowledge worker has been able to exploit some of the global opportunities. You hear about Indian IT companies, Indian IT services company, and that's happened because most of the people in employment and services economy has been able to achieve that. But there is still a very large population which is not as educated as the higher education people to work in other sectors. So will it achieve its potential? Will India achieve its potential? And will it live up to its expectation? That's the big question mark. You have huge amount of opportunity, but you also saw the huge amount of challenges that lies in front of it. I don't know. But I think if I'm able to hear across sectors, people from across sectors, they're more positive. Over the long term, they feel that the Indian demographic is in its favor. And if it is able to therefore work with that demographic, it is able to develop that demographic, that will show whether India will live up to its potential or not. And I think that's very, very important. Now, this opportunity has attracted multiple players, and global multinationals are there. If you will look at the Indo-Japanese relationship, that is growing. It is growing, and it is moving into a direction which is very, very positive. Overall, 1,000 Japanese companies have already invested more than $14 billion US. Japanese FDI into the country is increasing at the rate of almost about 20%. There is a large survey that I saw of Japanese companies where India has overtaken China as the most attractive overseas investment destination for Japanese manufacturers over the next decade. In the next 3 years, China is the largest. But if you look at the next 10 years, Japanese companies are saying that India will be the most attractive Japanese destination. If you look at not only larger companies, but I see now Japanese medium and small enterprises are equally making inroads into India. Okay. So that's another thing. And I borrowed something what the Japanese ambassador to India said. I see a promising future of economic relationships. As I speak, the Japanese emperor is in India, and the Prime Minister of Japan is shortly going to visit India. Now, I have done some kind of studies in terms of what are the kind of companies that have succeeded? What are the kind of multinationals which have succeeded in this kind of a diverse and complex environment? This is a research that I have done over the last 10 years, and I'm going to share with you some of those practices that have made these companies and multinationals succeed. Now, I will not go into everything, but I will focus on one of the most key elements of their success, which is their human resources management and capabilities development practices. A lot of you are from HR profession. A lot of you are from learning profession. And I feel this is one of the most critical factors that will make companies succeed in India. So I think in human resources management, when I look at the more successful companies, I see that they are following these three things. First of all, they are finding the right kind of people. Economic explosion has meant that the requirement for human resources pool is very, very large. And you don't find them. Your growth will require that you need to recruit large number of people. Your growth requires that you recruit top quality people. The successful companies have been able to do that very, very well, which means they have got HR managers who work like almost business development people and really working to recruit large number of people, because that's the kind of growth rate that you see. The second thing is successful companies have worked on the quality. They may not find the quality that they're looking for, but what they have worked is in making them quality the way that they want to see it. So if you look at successful companies, they have created the concept of learning universities. They have created the concept of learning capacity development, leadership development, and they have created this in a way by which they have been able to train the kind of people that they want. The Indian education system is not doing it. So therefore, companies have taken over that responsibility to train the people, to develop them in the way industry needs it. The second point, I found that the successful companies are very good at leadership development. They are readying leadership pipelines. They are working on systems for training and development. And they're working on processes for managing expectations and careers. The kind of leadership development that I have seen, people who are going to lead them in the future, it's very, very interesting. And therefore, they have created world-class leadership development practices in India. The third point, successful companies have built the kind of cultures that they want to have. What are the kind of cultures and values that they would like to have is very, very important. They have created the norms for working and being in the organization. How do you do that? And they have worked towards developing employee commitment and identification with the organization. Now, leadership development, therefore, is a very crucial and critical thing that I want to leave you behind with. I think there are 2 or 3 things here that I must say. First of all, each company has to define what is its objective of leadership development. What stage of business life cycle that it has. I'll just take 1 minute if you don't mind. 2 minutes if you don't mind, yeah. And they have worked towards that. So if the company is moving in for transformation, they have built change managers. If they are going into a different kind of a business, they have built the competencies. If they are going in for high growth rates, then they have built the capabilities of the people to do high growth rates. The second thing which I found was that in leadership development practices, there are three continuums. On the continuum, you can see it, where you do the leadership development, where you focus on the individual. Somewhere in the middle is where you focus on what I call as leadership skills. But on the third part of the continuum is where you create leaders who can change organizations, who can build cultures, who can build values. In India, I have found that there are gaps where leaders cannot build the kind of cultures and values that you require. And that is critical for any leadership development that you want to have. The other thing that I just want to speak to you about is that you have to understand that leaders in India are very different from other kind of countries. They're very intelligent people. They are well-informed people, but they're not easily convinced. You have to work with them to make this, which means when they work with facilitators, they want him to be an expert. When they are working in groups, they want the leader to be an expert. Then only they will listen to him. That's number one. Number two, Indians are very idea-rich people. They can create a lot of ideas, but they need structures, processes, and frameworks to think and deliver results. They're not able to find the kind of structures and frameworks that they require. So they may have high intellectual capacity, but they may not be exposed to execution frameworks. So once they are able to work with the execution frameworks, then they are very good at innovating. And then they can come up with good solutions. So you have to work towards that. And the last thing is, Indian leaders are very good at adopting best practices. But every organization has a context and a unique DNA. They don't understand it. They think every idea is not, you cannot replicate it everywhere. So I think it is important to understand that and let Indians understand that we have to work with the context in the hand, and we have to come up with innovative solutions. Innovative solutions, big innovative solutions, and the way to adopt that and change the organization. I think if you're going to look into this, then probably you'll see a very different kind of an organization in India, and probably will help you succeed. These are my research findings that I did from some of the successful companies. In my discussion, I will speak about more such companies, and I will go into specifically into specific companies which might have some practices there. So thank you very much for inviting me again.